What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Retro Movie Podcast, a podcast where everything is connected. I'm your host, Jacob Thompson, and joining me is my co-host, friend, and the person most likely to say he wants to run away to the country of Wyoming, Alex Perkins. Perk, how you doing tonight?
I'm well, thanks. I hear Wyoming's beautiful this time of year.
So have I. It seems like a nice place to go.
Yeah,
I don't knock you for
the good old country of Wyoming.
Mm-hmm. What continent is that on?
Space, outer space.
It's on the moon, actually.
Yeah, I think so.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is the podcast where every week Perk and I review a movie connected to the last one we watched. Like our show, we post pretty much every Friday on YouTube and podcast services. If you like our show, tell your friends about it and come watch some movies with us. 2 weeks ago was our last episode, and we watched Sholay, which was an Indian Western, and that came out in 1975. So we were like, what other movies came out in 1975? It was a loose one. All right, a loose connection, but we had to get back to the States. So we watched Dog Day Afternoon. Perk, why don't you intro for us?
So Dog Day Afternoon is a 1975 joint directed by Sidney Lumet, starring Al Pacino and John Cazale. It is at least it's based on a true story of a real bank robbery that actually happened. And starts off with the bank robbery, and then things go awry, and the whole movie takes place pretty much in this bank with Pacino and Cazale trying to figure out what's next. Some fun facts for you. Al Pacino originally accepted the role as Sonny, but then backed out because he was so tired and depressed and just beaten down from filming The Godfather, as he's a method actor, and that's a very involved process. And the things that he would have to do to play this role were pretty outlandish, which, like only sleeping a couple hours a night, pretty much starving himself, cold showers, that type of stuff, just to kind of always seem on edge. That's what he did for this movie. He ended up back in the starring role because after he backed out, Sidney Lumet offered the part to Dustin Hoffman, and they were big time rivals. So once he heard Dustin Hoffman was up for it, he said, "No, actually, I will do it."
I never would have guessed that Pacino and Hoffman were rivals.
Yeah, I don't know. That's news to me, but I mean, both, method actors in their prime at the time, I guess.
I suppose, yeah.
Makes sense. And then, as you brought up in the intro, the Wyoming line was improvised. So the reaction was real because Pacino had no idea that the Wyoming line was coming. There's a lot of, most of the dialogue in the movie was improvised originally and then added to the script.
Gotcha. That's a good way to do it. I like that. Of they're doing rehearsals, improv it, and then they figure out what the kind of the best stuff.
Yeah, I like that. Let's keep that.
As opposed to like improving on the day, which can have mixed results at times. But
right.
Well, there we go. Perk, you watched it more recently than I have. I saw it a few days ago. Okay. So why don't you go first? What did you think of Dog Day Afternoon?
I think it's really good. If nothing else, it's a good enough vehicle for an amazing performance. Pacino's absolutely on the top of his game, and the movie does a good job around it. It never really drags. It's pretty lean. A lot of tension, a lot of action, despite being in a one-room type ordeal. Overall, just a very solid, contained thriller, heist movie gone wrong.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I think there's been so many bank robbery movies, right? And me and you have watched a lot of them. And I think the reason this one stuck out to me was everyone in the scenarios felt more realistic than we normally get to see. Like, especially the hostages, how they're initially very scared, understandably so, and like anxious, but they kind of start to relax as they're like, okay, well, we're going to be here a while. And like Sonny's not that bad. Like him and Sal are not really hurting them at all, and they're treating them well. And they kind of are also kind of fighting for Sonny at some points. And then I really like the dynamic of the crowd coming and rooting for him as well when he's kind of explaining like how shitty like just society is right now for people like him. And I was so surprised they actually, because how many times we've seen in a movie like this, like I want, you know, a car to get me to a plane, you know, to fly wherever. Like that's a pretty common demand. But I feel like we never actually see them get in the car and get to the airport. Like this is the farthest I've ever seen that go, which was, I mean, they didn't get in the plane, but like I was like, wow, this is actually happening. Like they're actually going there, and I think it felt again realistic because as they're driving, like the crowd's like throwing bottles at them and stuff, and I don't know. There's just a lot of little touches in here and the dialogue as well that just everything felt a lot more real, and like the sense of place was very heightened, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously with the heist gone wrong premise, it's like, oh yeah, we've seen that before, but you know, at some point, had we seen that before? I don't know. Obviously, they've been doing heist movies since the beginning of time, but this is a little different. Like bank robbery gone wrong. I don't know if this was a thing. Maybe this movie would set the bar for that. Maybe it was a pioneer in the genre. And yeah, like in the first half, it kind of felt a little bit like, okay, yeah, I know this kind of story. And then at the midpoint with the twist, when he has them bring his wife, and his wife ends up being Leon. Oh no, we haven't seen this.
Yeah, which is really cool to see. Honestly, like I mean, it based on true stories. Like
right, these are real people, so it's not like it was a concoction of the writer or director. This is actually what happened.
Yeah, and it was really like cool to like see like trans representation. I was like, wow, like back in 1975, like they're like Hollywood allowed this movie to be made, like as with the story as is pretty much. And that was a really interesting dynamic, and I really liked kind of the gay community coming to like show support for Sonny, you know, and all that. And like I love how we learn about each character like very slowly, because they know you're gonna be with these characters for a long time, so they don't have to give you a lot of exposition up front. Like we can take the movie to learn about.
Yeah, leave breadcrumbs for sure.
Yeah, and it's just very satisfying to get these little like hints. Like at first I thought that he was lying about being a Vietnam vet just to try to like scare the police, and then we get him like flipping the rifle, like trying to show the hostages like how to flip the rifle. And it's like, oh no, like he actually was, and then we get the confirmation later with his mom and stuff like that. It was just really, really cool to like learn about them as the movie progressed.
As you mentioned with representation, I thought, yeah, I agree with you. I think it's, for a movie that came out in 1975, it's kind of crazy because obviously you've got people out there, you know, demonizing Sonny and Leon, but neither of them are caricatures. Neither of them are like blatant stereotypes. And yeah, for like the pretty weighty discussion of LGBT topics they have in this movie, I think they handled it pretty well.
Yeah, they handled it like with respect. Yeah, it wasn't like a bit of a joke. It was like, yeah, these are people.
Yeah, it's not like look at this person who's very obviously crazy or you know, very obviously a monster. It's not like that.
Right. And also just the complexity of like Sonny having like a wife and kids, and then kind of leaving her to be with Leon, and then that is also causes stress, and the whole reason he's doing the robbery is to get money for Leon's operation. So like, yeah, I don't know. It was just very refreshing, like to see like very like solid like gay characters that's not like their entire character in the movie, right? It's like that's part of it and adds so much. And yeah, it was very refreshing.
And there are a lot of movies from this time and before that have not aged well for how they handle some different groups, and I think this movie holds up extremely well under scrutiny. There's 100%. There's almost nothing in the movie that would be like, oh yeah, you can't say that now, you know, or oh, we can't do that now. At least as far as I can remember.
No, I didn't catch anything. Yeah, I mean, anything that happened was within what made sense. Like when after it comes out that he's gay, like when I think the doctor has to come in, he's like patting him down for weapons, and people are like whistling at him. It's like, yeah, I believe people would do that. Like that's not like people would be assholes about that kind of thing.
No, but even within the fact that, you know, two of the central characters are LGBT, they didn't even use like the obvious slur.
Yeah,
which
that's true.
was incredibly flippant. It's in the Hangover in like 2010. Man. It's
We don't talk about the early 2000s, all right?
it
it was a
it
bad
was
time.
definitely okay to say that in movies at the time, but
Yeah.
there was some restraint there.
Yeah. And well, speaking of Leon, just like all the phone calls that Pacino has at the end are just like incredible. Like he has a really long phone call with Leon, and then he has a phone call with his wife. And they just kind of sit on Pacino for a while on some of those shots, and just him either like trying to get a word in with his wife, or him just trying to explain himself. Like those are just, it was really a nice change of pace to have him like sit down for a minute and just talk to people, and then kind of get back into the action. That was so well done.
And you can tell too during these scenes he's more than at his wit's end.
Yeah.
In this case, as a method actor, probably literally he was already at his wit's end.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes through so well in the performance. And you're right, you get those smaller moments where you're just looking at Pacino. It's very powerful.
Yeah. And then also one of the other favorite scenes was writing the will, when he's dictating the will to I'm forgetting her name, to write it up. Also just like super powerful, I thought. And because he really thought, he's like, I think I might die. And like Sal's gone at that point. Sal's just like super out of it. Which he was also a really interesting character we can talk about. But yeah, just the way this kind of movie climaxes, I think was very, very, very like well done.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned Sal. So maybe I just wasn't paying close enough attention, but Sal's still kind of a question mark for me. I don't. Did you see something I didn't?
Well, to me, he's someone. Vietnam. I was getting like PTSD vibe.
Sure.
Because I mean, early on, he's like, it's either a clean getaway or we kill ourselves. Like this dude is not in a good place.
No, definitely not.
And he just like needs this to work. And then we learn too, he's like super devout, and I don't know, he's just Kim was someone who's very, very intense, but also like in his own way, he couldn't handle the pressure. Whereas Pacino, he kind of comes more and more erratic and like trying to hold together. Sal just kind of like gets quiet, and he's like can't handle it.
Kind of recedes within himself.
Yeah, that's right. I think recedes the word I was looking for.
Yeah, which definitely can be a way that what you're talking about, PTSD, can be portrayed, I would imagine. Yeah, I think that's a good read. Because we're not given too much on Sal. Just he's maybe a little simple and clearly has seen some stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I believed at any moment this week he could have shot somebody.
Like, I 100% was thinking that for sure on several occasions, especially when at the very end in the car when they're like, "Hey, Sal, make sure to keep your gun pointed up." I thought maybe he was gonna, have his gun down, hit a bump, and accidentally shoot Sonny in the back of the head or something like that.
Yeah, or somebody else. Yeah,
that's potentially a way that things could have gone. I think it helps to have not known the outcome of the original story.
Yeah, definitely. And also just in that moment at the end where Maria gives him the like cross,
the crucifix.
Yeah, like that was that again just showed that the hostages and them did bond a bit, because they weren't really bad guys, like they're just people in a bad situation and all that. And
they robbed a bank, which
had no money.
Who you talk to is a victimless crime,
right? Well, I did like to, speaking of like the bank, there's no money there. Like the guys just came and pulled it, and like the fact they were doing all of this for like whatever it was, like $10,000 or whatever.
Yeah, I think they needed $2,500 or something like that.
Yeah, like for such a low amount of money, it's like if they would have just got out early, they probably would have been fine. But it just heightened and all that. But yeah, I mean, this is probably one of, if not the best, like bank robbery movies I've seen, because it's just such a good character study, and everyone feels so real. Like even like the detective he's talking to for most of it, Moretti or whatever his name is.
Yeah,
was great. And him like this little stuff, like Sonny trying to pay the pizza guy, and like I don't know, it's just there's just a lot more character and heart than we normally get. Normally, it's just like trying to be actiony or suspenseful.
Right.
And there's more to this than that.
There's you're right. There's less action and event to focus on, so get more fleshed out characters. And yeah, you're right. Even Moretti, who pretty clearly, like, he's pretty invested because this is making him look terrible.
Yeah.
So he just wants to make sure this all gets done. And then when the FBI guys show up and are like cool and cold and
Right.
like the face of evil,
Yeah.
like they bring a whole new presence as well. And
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with you with, what is absolutely not a long 2 hours. They are pretty much contained in and just outside of this bank, and we get to really delve into our main characters and kind of pick them apart in a really satisfying way.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, like when the FBI says, "We'll take care of Sal," like that. I feel like when Sonny heard that, he was kind of relieved almost. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but like the way the end is kind of the best case scenario for, because like I said,
Sal, definitely.
like he was like, clean getaway or we're killing ourselves, and then for Sonny having just 20 years of prison time, which I think I saw in real life, it only ended up being 5. Yeah, I mean, no hostages dying. Like all in all, it turned out okay. For the most part.
Right. Other than Sal
passing away, but
yeah,
it's a great movie. I'd recommend this to pretty much anybody. I think
absolutely,
it's really, really great.
Do you want to do that thing where we recommend similar movies? Because like for the first time ever, I have like a bunch.
Oh, rattle them off.
I mean, I just like there are a lot of bank robbery type movies that, like I'd say, The Place Beyond the Pines, Hell or High Water.
Yep.
I think a great companion piece to this movie would be Reservoir Dogs, because this movie is entirely the heist gone wrong. Reservoir Dogs cuts out the heist gone wrong and is just the aftermath. So maybe do a little double feature where, because so Reservoir Dogs starts off at a cafe with the whole gang, and then it hard cuts to after the fact, at the meetup afterward, and everything has gone wrong. So maybe you watch the cafe scene, you watch all of Dog Day Afternoon, and then you go back and watch the rest of Reservoir Dogs. That's a bit of a stretch, but if you want to see the almost like the negative of this movie, Reservoir Dogs is a good show.
Nice. For me, when I was thinking about New York and it's super hot, and I've recommended this movie a million times now, but Do the Right Thing was what came to mind again. Of just
I had the same thought. I had forgotten, but yeah, with the heat, with the no AC, everybody sweating, I definitely got at least a similar atmosphere to Do the Right Thing.
Yeah. Well, I know even just like the opening credits of like Elton John playing and like kind of showing the city, just kind of reminded me of Do the Right Thing. So we've said it a million times. If you haven't watched the movie yet, you listen to this podcast. What are you doing?
You gotta watch.
Sort yourself out. Yeah. What a great time. Before we reveal what we're watching next week, we gotta do our bonus reviews, and we got some to talk about. Perk, should we talk about the movie we both watched first?
Well, let me tee it up because my rewatch in advance. So because we Jacob and I both saw spoiler alert, Asteroid City. In the lead up, I rewatched The French Dispatch, which was Wes Anderson's most recent film before Asteroid City, came out in 2021. I love that movie.
Yeah.
It's Wes Anderson at his most Wes Anderson-y, because it's an anthology. There's some animation in there, just small stories, incredibly highly stylized. All of the stories are very entertaining and just really awesome, well acted and well drawn up. Having watched it because I think this is the first time I watched it since maybe I saw it in a theater. 2021? Yeah, maybe. That would have been, I think it was the fall of 21, so theaters would have been opening back up. It was definitely helpful this time to have subtitles.
Yeah.
Specifically for the French Revolution scene, the kids' revolution. There were a few things in that, and also the ability to pause and read what was on the screen. There were definitely things that I might have missed the first time around, but Um, it was a lot easier to comprehend when I could kind of go at my own pace.
Yeah,
At home.
people talk very fast in Wes Anderson movies.
Yes, they do. And yeah, every one of the little anthology stories is great. I think we are in agreement that the Jeffrey Wright kidnapping with the chef it's incredible. Is the peak.
Yeah,
it's just so good. It's just perfect. And then when it works into the animation in the chase scene, it's just so awesome.
Yeah, I love that. Jeffrey Wright is my new favorite Wes Anderson mainstay. He's awesome.
Getting a little ahead of ourselves, but agreed. So French Dispatch, really good, big fan.
There we go. So yeah, Perk and I went and saw Asteroid City, not together, unfortunately, but we both saw it. And I mean, I can go first. I really, really enjoyed this movie. Minor spoilers, not really, because they tell you immediately, but I didn't realize that this was a play, or within the universe of the movie, Asteroid City is a play that is taking place.
In typical Wes Anderson form, we're being told it's a documentary made about the making of a play that we also see because it's made for TV. I think it's just there's a lot of layers of abstraction.
Yeah, and that's where watching this movie again with subtitles would be very helpful. Because there's a lot of stuff in this movie I feel like I missed, and I need to rewatch to check for incongruities and Easter eggs and stuff. But once it says at the beginning, oh, it's a play, I was way more in, because just from the trailers, the setting wasn't really doing it for me. But yeah, once I heard it was a play, I'm like, okay, now I'm in, because they're going to do something interesting with it, and they do. I think this movie is very, very cool. I'm very impressed by Jason Schwartzman and the lead. He's often a background character or maybe like comedic relief in Wes Anderson movies, and I thought he just killed it as the kind of the main character here and the main point of perspective. And of course, the rest of the cast is fantastic too. But very quirky, very weird, lot of hidden stuff, and even the theme, I'm not really sure right now after one watch what Wes Anderson was trying to say with this movie, but I really liked it and definitely want to see it again.
Yeah, we're not going to discuss it because it's part of the climactic scene, but there's a certain chanted phrase which I am still going over in my head, and I'm not entirely sure I know what it means, but I have some theories. But love this movie. You're right, Jason Schwartzman kills it. I think it's interesting because Wes Anderson has such a particular style that you're never really sure if a is going to be able to fit well in that mold. Tom Hanks, perfect.
Yep.
Scarlett Johansson, amazing. She was so good.
Yeah.
I think this might be her first live action appearance. I think she voiced one of the dogs in Isle of Dogs. But she was great. Their the discussions between the windows.
Yeah.
So awesome. I don't want to get in too deep, but really, this is a great movie. If you like Wes Anderson, if you don't like Wes Anderson, you will probably hate this. It's going to be a very binary movie. And I feel like kind of all of his stuff is that way. Some of it's approachable. Like I feel like most people can get behind Grand Budapest or the animated ones, but
I'll push back a little bit. I feel like French Dispatch, in comparison, is a lot. Like that movie's a lot to keep track of, and it's
absolutely is.
Story.
Yes.
I feel like this movie, at the end of the day, if you've ever been on vacation, I feel like you can relate to this movie of like a bunch of kind of random people in one spot, and everyone's kind of got their own thing going on, and there's kids running around, and all that. I think there's something there for a lot of audiences, just for the general story of it. Maybe like the cutaways to the quote unquote real world, or the production is a little bit hard to parse. Even for me, it was kind of hard to parse sometimes. But I think the core Asteroid City stuff is not too bad.
Yeah, that's fair. But also, I loved that extra layer with Adrian Brody, and just watching Jason Schwartzman through the fourth wall. Also, the one scene which I won't spoil, but you know the scene I'm talking about, where it's right at the climax, involves a conversation across balconies. I I was like tingling. I don't even know why. It's not like anything was all too amazing about that scene in particular, but just the way it was put together, the overwhelming quiet, and the just the discussion, the dialogue that takes place. So cool.
Yeah. I want to give a few more shout outs. Jeffrey Wright, we already mentioned, but he's got a small part, but very good, very funny.
Yes. His speech.
Bryan
Awesome.
Cranston was really fun to see. Tilda Swinton was a favorite of mine. Her character was pretty funny to me.
She was awesome.
And then it was fun to see Maya Hawke in more stuff. I was like, oh, I saw her recently in another movie, and it was cool to see her again as she was the teacher. And Lee Schreiber, and it's the whole Wes Anderson.
The cast list is insane. Yeah, and then some maybe not regulars. Like you would think it would end up. I mean, Christopher Nolan uses a lot of the same people every time, but Wes Anderson has such a wide array of actors that he seems to get along with well. Like, this movie doesn't even have Owen Wilson or Bill Murray in it, and like those guys are always around.
Yeah, and it's just funny because like even like I don't get his last name right, I always messed up. Tony Rivoli, who played Zero in Grand Budapest.
Oh yeah.
And he has a small part in Friend's Dispatch, and then he has a very small part.
He's the young artist.
Yes, there you go.
Dispatch. Yep.
And he has a very small part in this as well. But it's just fun to see them back. It's like it feels like if you get into one, you can just show up on any other one, and he'll throw a small part your way, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, it's it almost is. It's just the pretentious way of having like a superhero crossover cameo. Honestly, like I pop when, not going to mention because it's hella a spoiler, but when that reveal happens and it's like, oh look who it is. I pop for that the same way that a lot of people would pop when like Wonder Woman shows up in what was that movie nobody saw?
Justice League.
Shazam 2.
Oh, Shazam 2, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, spoilers. Wonder Woman shows up for one scene.
Yeah, I think if you've listened to this podcast, you know that I don't think they really care that much.
Yeah,
we don't.
That's fair.
But yeah, Asteroid City, I think go check it out. It's a very, very cool
movie.
Perk, I'll go to you next. So you have 2 left, and I have 1. If I didn't.
Sure. This will be a quick one, but I caught up on the last 2 seasons of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's another. If you like it, you like it. If it's not your vibe, don't watch it. But I had a great time. Just a really funny show, really clever writing. They can keep doing that as long as they want. Fine by me. 2 thumbs up on the new Always Sunny.
There we go. Speaking of TV, I finally finished it, season 2 of The Bear. And I know you're going to watch it, so I'll be very careful with spoilers. Not that I was spoiling anything anyway, but this fucking show, man. This show is so incredibly good. And I was trying to figure out like what it is, like what's the X factor. A lot of it is they do such good research on these kitchens and restaurants and make everything feel as realistic as possible from that part of it, But to me, it's the dialogue. And I don't know how much of it's on the page versus how they deliver or if any improv or whatever. But just when characters are talking to each other, it feels so realistic in the way I can tell these characters are anxious and they're trying to be honest with themselves and they're trying to be good, but it's really hard to always be the person that you want to be. And they fuck up sometimes and then trying to get back and apologize and trying to get back to where, working in this insanely stressful environment, how can they do the best they can? And it's just incredible. And I think this season in particular, massive shout out to the casting directors. There are characters shown in this season, and I think they're all cast perfectly. I'll just say because she shows pretty quick, especially shout out to Molly Gordon, who you might know as AAA from Booksmart. She is unbelievable. Like I was blown away by her performance, and just there's a lot of people that show up and that are just great. So massive shout out to casting. I think the show is perfectly cast, and I hope we keep getting more because I just want to see these characters interact more and try to overcome how stressful the restaurant business is. So, yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend the show. It is absolutely incredible. One of the best shows on TV right now, for my money. Do you think you'll watch it soon?
Yes.
Okay.
It's definitely on the list.
You gotta do it. We gotta talk about
I know.
stuff.
No, I love the first season. This is not like oh yeah, I'll check that out. No, this is like I'm actually gonna watch it.
And yeah, you'll have to take some breaks because, if anybody's seen season 1, the show gets very stressful.
A little high energy for sure.
There's one episode in season 2 that's like uncut gems, and I'm just like,
oh no,
I need a break after that. It was a lot. Yeah, there we go. Perk, what is your final thing you'd like to talk about today?
Yeah, so while the rules police are asleep, I'm gonna sneak in a book review because I read a book for the first time in a couple years.
If it's got a story, I'll allow it.
Yeah, it definitely has a story. I mean, I like picture books too. Don't come at me. Coloring books, they're pretty cool. Get my crayons out. Yeah, tangent done. I read the book. It's called Legendborn. It's part of
Legendborn. Okay.
Yeah, part of a duology. The story surrounds a 16-year-old black girl growing up in North Carolina who gets into an early college program at North Carolina right after the sudden tragic death of her mother. And she goes off to this program and gets entwined with the mythology is the Knights of the Round Table is where the mythology is based. So she ends up in and out of that world while also trying to be a teenager who's at early college. So would really recommend it. It's very good. If you're looking for a YA mythological type book, which I loved as a kid. I mean, like Percy Jackson and
don't get me started.
Yeah, and the Harry Potter and stuff like that. Always loved those books. So definitely scratched an itch for me. And yeah, really well told. Deals with race in a lot of really interesting ways, even fundamental to the story. There's kind of a through line, which I think is handled really well. It's never preachy. It's just straightforward with what the experience is like. So definitely, I mean, if people are looking for a book and you want to low fantasy mythology type story, check out Legendborn.
Okay. Think you'll do the second one?
Yeah, I think so. I'm above my pace already because before I read Dune, before the movie came out, it had been 5 or 6 years since I read a book. So I'm up to near my quota right now, but we'll see.
I feel you. Yeah, all I read now is manga, which I don't know if that counts or not, but
yeah, sure it does.
I throw it in every weekend. Well, nice. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Do you think we'll see a film adaptation of this at some point?
I don't know. I think it could work. It's I just don't know if the passion is there for that type of movie anymore after Hunger Games, Percy Jackson.
Yeah.
I think they kind of flooded the market, Divergent, all that.
Yeah, I have to wait a little bit.
But yeah, we'll see.
But hey, Percy Jackson's coming back as a show.
Yeah, which everyone was asking for.
Well, supposedly it'll be good because the author Rick Riordan is involved.
Okay.
So fingers crossed.
Yeah, the movies were not very good.
It can't be worse than the movies. The movies are horrible.
I liked the first one, but I was 14?
I was so mad they changed the ending. I was that guy in the audience the book's better because they changed the ending and all that BS.
No, the second one was just trash.
I can't believe they made a second one, honestly.
I can't either.
Well, there we go. That is our show for this week. Thank you everyone for watching. Next week, we're going to be following Mr. Pacino himself to the movie Heat. Not The Heat. We already watched that with Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy. If you want to hear that review, go back and check it out.
I hear they're very similar movies.
They both involve police. So Yeah, Heat, and that is on Netflix. So hopefully you still have it. Hopefully you didn't rage quit Netflix like I want to do. But
hopefully you did rage quit. Screw these terrible, scummy business practices.
I know,
because
it's
they're
insane.
working, and now everyone's gonna do it.
I know. So yeah, next week, Heat on Netflix. But until then, thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye-bye.